There are two completely different views of the cryptocurrency market. One view is that the only thing that matters is momentum and technical analysis, and the actual token you're holding, the fundamentals, don't matter at all. And the other view, as many of you probably know, the view I agree with, is that fundamentals are absolutely critical, and over the long run, projects with good fundamentals are going to have the most price appreciation. In this video, I want to break down these two viewpoints and really talk about what I believe is the most important thing to take away as an investor. I know most of you are probably watching this thinking, I know exactly where Mickle's going to side, but more importantly, I want to break down the historical precedent in these two forms of investing. Like always, your support means so much to this channel. Thank you to everyone who takes the time to like these videos and subscribe to the channel. These two simple things really do help me out so much. Also, if you ever need a place to buy some XRP, make sure to check out my favorite exchange Uphold down in the description of this video. With that said, let's jump right into it, and I hope you guys enjoy the content. So I want to start this video off and just quickly cover why I even wanted to make this video. And the honest answer is just because I have a lot of people following me who follow a multitude of different people. And every content creator always focuses on something different. It should be pretty obvious at this point that on this channel, I really like to focus on fundamentals. What is the main purpose of the token, and is this token going to be useful in the future? But there are a ton of other content creators, even in the XRP community, that focus on completely different things such as momentum and technical analysis. And I don't think there's necessarily a right answer here, but I want to break down why I believe fundamentals is the correct approach in investing in these markets over the long term. Now, I want to share something else with you real quick that really made me want to make this video, and that was this post right here. This post right here was really talking about how it doesn't matter what token you choose, it's all about just investing in a random basket of tokens. When Bitcoin takes off, if you're lucky, you'll be in the things that take off alongside with it. And for the most part, I think this strategy really has been correct. Over the long run, investing in crypto, it's been really hard to actually predict which projects were going to outperform Bitcoin. In fact, it really has seemed pretty random. It seems like you kind of just buy Bitcoin and a group of other cryptocurrencies, cross your fingers and hope and see what happens. Now, this really got me thinking about this subject and really made me want to make this video because while I 100% agree, this has been a strategy so far that's played out, I don't think it's going to be the strategy that keeps winning going forward. And I want to start off and say something very, very important. What we have seen throughout asset classes, time, and history is fundamentals are absolutely critical. Typically, short-term momentum traders are the ones who typically lose out over long periods of time. You can look at any statistic out there. Traders typically underperform the market, and typically hodlers or long-term investors are the ones who outperform the market. And the main reason for that is the fundamental idea that no one can really predict the future. And over the long run, these markets are just going to go where they're going to go, and the projects that are actually delivering something important will remain relevant for long periods of time. Typically, when you're not paying attention to that and you're just focusing on momentum and the chart, you can get lucky on any individual move, but if the project's not actually useful, if it's not actually doing anything important, then it's very unlikely it's going to be relevant or something that anyone is even looking to purchase or on exchanges in the long-term future of the project. Now, I want to talk about something else that I believe is absolutely critical when breaking this down, and that's something that I alluded to earlier, which has really been that despite the fact that I believe long-term fundamentals are the way to go, there is no doubt that in the shorter term and so far in cryptocurrency history, that really hasn't been the case. And I think that really comes down to something that not a lot of people appreciate enough, and that is how early we are to this market. If you take a look at the dot-com bubble, any internet stock at the time pretty much pumped massively. What was the reason for that? Well, the vast majority of people in that market didn't actually understand internet stocks. They acted like they understood internet stocks. They all saw this massive vision for all these different companies, the pets.com, the Napsters, whoever, but very few people really understood the internet stocks. There was some people grinding research on Google. There was some people grinding research on Apple, but these people were kind of silenced by the people riding the hype and really enjoying most of the big gains of the parabolic stocks that were popping off at that given time. Now, if you look at the best performers of the internet bubble, then what you'll notice is very few of those companies were the internet companies around today. So it begs the question, was the correct strategy after the dot-com bubble to keep throwing money at momentum, keep throwing money at things that seemed like they were going to do good based on a chart, or to be focused on long-term utility? Now, my answer to that is the correct strategy was to focus on long-term utility. If you were able to figure out that the iPhone was completely differentiated from anything else out there, if you were to figure out that e-commerce and what Amazon was doing was completely revolutionary, if you were to figure out that what Google was doing with search was going to completely change the way that we get access to websites, these were all going to be fundamental things that kept those companies relevant and kept people continuing to buy those equities. But if you tried to throw money into the next thing that was going to pump, if you tried to throw money into the next thing that you thought was going to have momentum, you likely ended up holding a completely worthless company that never amounted to anything. And if you were lucky, it had a couple more big bumps along the way, but a lot of them never did. So I really do believe right now we are kind of in an extended dot-com bubble in the cryptocurrency market. There is no doubt in my mind, for the longest time, speculation has driven this market. Speculation has been the thing that delivered returns. It's really just whatever you can get in front of people, you can get some momentum behind it, and then everyone thinks it's the next best thing, and that's where they're going to throw their money. But I don't believe this is going to be the strategy that continues to win. And this is where I actually kind of disagree with a lot of these other opinions out there. There is no doubt that this strategy of just throwing money at the next hottest thing has worked before in the past. Now, I don't actually believe it's worked for a lot of people. I think it's worked for a very few select people who kind of have information beforehand and then act like, oh, anyone can do it. But that's regardless of the point in this video. The main point is I don't think this is going to be the strategy that wins out over the long run. Because like I talked about earlier in the video, the strategy that has been time tested and proven with multiple asset classes is investing in those fundamentals. Because if you can figure out a protocol, if you can figure out a cryptocurrency that's going to be relevant 25 years from now, the simple fact of the matter is it is highly probable that in 25 years from now, the entire market cap of the cryptocurrency industry is going to be much larger. And therefore, that specific token is likely going to appreciate massively over that time period. If you're simply buying whatever's hot, there is absolutely no way you could make any determination on if that thing is even going to be listed on major exchanges 25 years from now. And just to get capital into that project might actually be impossible. So I think it's really important to consider these things when it comes down to whether or not you're going to pick a strategy based on fundamentals or what's hot at the current moment. There is no doubt, as I said, that picking what's hot has worked for some people. But I think it's really important to realize that that might be market dependent. In the same exact way during the dot-com bubble, you could pick the hot stock, but that didn't necessarily last. I have a feeling history is going to carry over and treat the cryptocurrency market the same exact way. This is one of the reasons why I focus so specifically on Ripple and XRP in this channel. There is a lot of cool things going on in the cryptocurrency market, but there is very few things that I see being sticky with big institutions. There are very few things I see being sticky and driving real world utility that once a company adopts, they're not going to want to get away from. I believe what Ripple is doing with XRP is delivering that stickiness. So that means regardless of what this industry looks like 10 to 15 years from now, there's a high probability in my mind that most of these big institutions are likely going to adopt one of these technologies. I believe Ripple is making XRP the obvious one, and then stick with it for a long period of time. This institutional adoption, this slow movement by these institutions, while it's kind of hurt XRP in the short term in terms of really upfront adoption, I believe it's going to be a massive benefit in terms of these institutions adopting protocols and then saying, okay, we're good for now. We're going to use this. We're going to build all our products and services around this ecosystem. That's where I believe that long-term stickiness, that long-term thesis, that long-term fundamental value is absolutely critical in driving that long-term price appreciation of the token. It's not necessarily about what it's doing now. It's about what that potential is over the long run. And if we really are as close to a utility driven bull market that I really do believe we are, then I believe this is going to be the strategy that ultimately wins out. Picking what's hot is always going to have its moment. It's always going to have its day in the sun. But what we have seen is throughout time in history, this strategy, while it works, typically doesn't work over extended periods of time. So I think it's absolutely fundamental that everyone just looks himself in the mirror and figures out, what kind of investor are you? Do you want to be that trader? Do you want to be that person trying to get into that hot thing? There's nothing wrong with that, but that's a choice you have to consciously make. And if your choice is instead, no, I don't want to do that. I want to focus on those long-term fundamentals. I want to focus on hoarding these things so in the future I can look back at this collection I created and look at the value in comparison to what it was before. That's a completely different mindset and a completely different strategy. And I think the more that people can look themselves in the mirror and understand what type of investor they actually are, the less you'll be affected by FUD and essentially the market doing what markets do, which is essentially unpredictable and irrational behavior for short periods of time, but over the long run, the market realizing where real value lies. Guys, I would love to know what you think about this topic. It's one that's probably highly controversial. Everyone is always going to have their own view of investing, and that's important. But when I think it comes down to the fundamentals, the statistics, the actual evidence of what works best, I think it's really hard to go against picking things with deep utility, picking things that are important, and picking projects based on future potential and based on their likelihood of success over the long run. Guys, thank you so much for coming. I hope you enjoyed this update. And for now, Mickle out.